PR, that's the public relations sector, is one that's supposed to be invisible if they do the job well, and if they're too visible, then it means the job is being done too well. I hope that's correct, because I used to be in it at some point when I was a young man. But with Kentin Tikolo, who's a research consultant for the Public Relations Society of Kenya, PRSK, and Angela Nganga Mumo, who's the events chair of PRSK. The reason I'm reading that is because I know her from somewhere else. She works at Orange, Telecom Orange, so, but that's not why you're here. And if you notice the name Tikolo, it's not a mistake, because she belongs to a very, very famous family. They've done very well for us in the cricketing field, but that again is not the discussion for today. This is about PR, and I'm just in a bit of PR for you, and a bit of PR for you. Is that what it is? Speaking nicely about people.
Well, I think, as you said, PR is, I think, the most misunderstood profession, and the most misused. It can stand for several things. I have been in some instances where they expect perhaps the PR person, when you have high prominent guests, they do the hospitality, we serve the cakes and the teas. So it's very misunderstood, but yet it is one of the oldest professions. And I think what we're trying to do now in Kenya is to actually put PR rightfully where it belongs, which is at a strategic level, which hopefully will then make it extremely clear in terms of the role that we play, and even the focus areas that we need to concentrate on as PR people. PR has been mainly construed, as you said, with image building and making events look good. They call us glorified banner hangers, because whenever you see an event and you look at the pomp and you say this, the PR team has been at work, but that's not basically what PR is all about. It has several components of it, and we are now beginning as a society to look at PR from a very strategic perspective, so that we can add value, intrinsic value to organizations. When
you say PR has been mistaken, in fact, to me it's been mistaken in even more ways, because when I was doing it, back when I was doing it, what it used to be is that people mistook it for media relations. They thought media relations was PR, in the sense that there's this mistaken notion that PR is one thing. And I know that's the one question I never ever ask in any interviews: what is this? But seriously, what is PR then?
Well, what I can say is that PR is the total engagement of stakeholders, and when you've got stakeholders, it could be on various fronts, and so public relations could entail internal communications, can entail dealing with lobbying, advocacy. Propaganda is also a tactic within PR. Media relations, industry relations is also an aspect of PR as well. So there are very many components within which tactics that are used in public relations, but essentially PR is the art, or it is the use of, or the building of relationships between an organization and its publics or stakeholders.
Part of the reason why the two of you are here is because last night there was this event, the PR event, and I just thought it interesting because there was a report that came out, which is what you did. You actually were the author of that, and it said very interesting things. For example, the survey brought forth the disconnect. I'm just reading from the summary. Brought forth the disconnect that exists between academia and workplace expectations, indications of that top-rated PR competencies required at organization level, such as writing skills, critical thinking, problem solving, good attitude, and the ability to communicate and self-initiative. In effect, it's just saying that that connect is not there. One, what I have found with PR people, they tend not to have studied PR. It's only very recently you find someone says, I've got a diploma in PR. I don't know whether the degrees that exist in PR. Typically you tend to have ex-media people being in PR, mostly. You tend to have people who have come up through the organization, say through the marketing function, who then head up a PR and marketing and communications or whatever it is. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
That's precisely what we are trying to say, that there is a profession called public relations. And this profession in Kenya, we wanted to know where is it in relation to the global scene. That we would have people from different professions coming in and then suddenly being called PR people. That is a very old school. Actually, if you look at the developed world where the profession has come up, they have gone through these stages. But we've reached a stage where globally everybody is looking at making PR a profession There are studies in PR. I, for one, have done a master's degree in public relations, although I didn't do it here. I went to the University of Stirling in Scotland because it was not there. In fact, at the time I was pulled into the PR profession, there was no course in public relations. And I think it was in 1999 that the Kenya Institute of Management started a diploma in public relations. And my question is, who was teaching?
But
Because
is it necessarily a bad thing, though, Candice, if I may ask? Let's look at the very narrow field of media relations, which is where people come and say, you are the editor of such and such outlets. We have an event that we want coverage in, and then you then send your reporters. In the case of television, you send a reporter and a camera person. Doesn't it not help if that person has been sitting in a newsroom, so they understand the cycles of a newsroom? For example, don't call me an hour before and expect me to turn up. Don't put an event at 9 in the night and expect it to be on that evening's news, that sort of thing. Yes, they may not have a degree or a diploma in PR, but they sort of understand how these things work.
Thank you. I see. That's exactly where we are going. Equating public relations to.
In this case, I asked that very narrow question. I know there's obviously a lot more government relations and the like, but narrowly speaking, for example, I assume lobbying is part of PR, government lobbying, and the way it works in a lot of places, you find ex-legislators, for instance, becoming lobbyists. Again, they understand the cycles of the institution.
Yes. So, are you going to concentrate on one aspect? You stop being strategic when you're looking at only one aspect. It's a very good idea to have people from other professions coming in. However, once they land into the profession and decide that this is what they want to do, they must then get the theoretical background. They must get the knowledge base that's going to help push what they have in them to give a strategic angle to the public relations profession.
But engineering, I mean, PR is not engineering in the sense of the building will fall down if you don't have a good degree.
Well, it does have its knowledge base. You must know, because we are talking about reputation management, and reputation management is what builds an organization. That is going to determine how you relate to your stakeholders. In fact, it determines your bottom line. If you have an organization that has a beautiful product, but this organization is not trustworthy, trust me, the bottom line is not going to have the same kind of feel as it should, rightfully. And PR is about helping an organization to understand all the stakeholders around it and communicate with them so that it is able to then get its bottom line right. So if somebody comes in from marketing, they are likely to just concentrate on marketing. How about the rest of the parts of PR that they should be doing? And that is the mistake that we make. We have gone tactical. We look at the various activities that are done in PR, hanging banners, and in fact that expectation from management. In fact, if you have an event tomorrow, you're being asked, how come we did not appear in the newspaper?
Please do not remind me, because I'll ask you that question, but that expectation from management.
Exactly. So professionally, we want to be able to be the ones giving guidance, because we are the experts. It's not management to tell us you're doing well because you are appearing, because the organization is appearing in the newspaper so many times. And that pressure has actually created tension between PR and media people. That's when you start hearing that PR people are bribing news people in order for the organizations to appear in the newspapers. That is not PR. And at the end of the day, somebody should be able to ask, what value are we getting by being in the newspapers? That's now strategic. We are trying to ask ourselves, to what extent is that appearance in the newspaper helping our bottom line? There are so many other channels of communication beyond the newspapers that people should be using. If, for example, Telcom wants to spread itself, around the country, being in the nation may not be the only channel, because who in Isiolo is reading the nation?
Well, hopefully they are, but they...
Yes, and understanding, So what is the level of literacy, in the various parts of the country we are going to? Who is likely to be, having a phone there? What kind of message should we be passing to those people? Will that message come through best through the newspaper, or what is the best way in which we would get the message across. So we have concentrated so much on the media and forgotten all the other channels of communication that would be strategic. And this is what we get when we come into a profession and we don't then embrace what it takes to make that profession internalized in us so that we make the best out of it.
One of the biggest things that I struggled with, and Kentis has just said it, which it was the issue of measurement, where you have, whether out of ignorance, whether out of having nothing better in terms of measurement, someone would measure the success of PR by a number of media appearances you had. You had this number of column inches in a newspaper, you appeared for this long on TV, you had this interview, you had that mention in the radio. How else do you measure? Because when it comes to reputation is almost a subjective thing. You may stop two people who have exactly the same level of interest and the same level of exposure. One person absolutely hates Orange and Telcom, another person absolutely adores Orange and Telcom. And it's difficult to even think of how and why that comes about. So how, when you go to management and say, I would like X amount of budget for PR, how do you then see you were successful last year and you gave us 50 million shillings and we used it well? How do you measure that?
Absolutely. I think it's basically what Kentis has been speaking about, and it's about looking at the function of PR from a strategic perspective, which means, first and foremost, you must put a plan. You must prepare your communications plan in terms of what are the activities, what do you want, what is the objective, as Kentis was saying, that you want to achieve for the organization. From a strategic perspective, how is this in line with the company's strategic objectives? And then now you apply the communication tools, the necessary communication tools, and to each there must be a measurement, so they have to be smart as well.
And how do you measure? That's the question.
You will not have one specific tactic or way of measurement that is, you know, across the board, but we must apply research, which is basically what we have done even with this survey. Why did we do a survey? We needed to understand the state of where PR is, and it was not by you know, sort of doing we just didn't do a poll. We had to go and find out the level of, we had to go into detail to understand what is the state of PR. So we must begin to approach and to apply research, either quantitative or qualitative. So as you've said, perhaps media hits, measuring of media hits is one aspect, but it's just one small way of measuring PR. There are so many, depending on what you're looking at. Good example is that if we want to understand, let's say, the whether you're having effective employee communication, what are the tools that you're going to use to measure that? Fine, you're going to put out newsletters, you may even put out an intranet, regular barazas with your staff, etc. But how do you measure the effect?
Exactly.
You have to go back to the staff and you have to collect that feedback. How do you collect that feedback? You have to undertake some form of research. So what we are trying to encourage professionals, or to encourage those who are practicing PR, is to think about PR from that aspect. When you think strategic, you will develop objectives, you will come up with what are the actions that you're going to undertake. It becomes the last part, not the first. As you said, we're very tactical. The first thing is that you have an event, how many, I'm going to call the newsrooms, and I'm going to now call Kantai tomorrow and ask him, can I be on the 9 o'clock, am I going to be on breakfast show? That's a tactic. But what are we trying to achieve? What is the message that we want to pass across? How relevant is it to all the other communication